Hello everyone, I'm Miss Gian, and today we will be talking about test development and construction. So basically, we will discuss first theoretically how tests are developed, how they are made, what's the process, and ang atong madistoryaan ron per stages is also what we will go through hinay sa ato ang laboratory, which is scale development. So, di ba, ang ato ang practice sa scale dev is first there's a refresher lecture, and then there's a workshop for you to build out the skills, and then after that an output for you to produce on wherein inyo ma-apply sa inyong construct of interest. So basically, ang kaning mga refresher slides gikan na ni tanan sa atong masteryaan karon. Okay, so hopefully by the end of today you'll understand why creating a good test is more complicated than just really writing a bunch of questions. Dili lang nimo masayon-sayon og write ang questions sa psychological constructs. So, ang ato ang discussion ron hopefully maka-appreciate mo unsa ang process, unsa ka technical, unsa ka nuance ang creating a test. Okay, so here are our learning objectives. First, by the end of the session, hopefully you'll be able to describe the 5 stages of test development and explain how they form an iterative process. Second is differentiate between norm reference and criterion referenced approaches sa test development. Compare ang mga scaling methods and item formats. And then we will calculate item analysis indices. Sayo na ni siya. Don't worry about the calculation part. Nanatay tool, and then explain how item characteristic curves and computerized adaptive testing improve measurement. Okay, so let's start first with the big picture of test development. Na ay 5 stages. Okay, so first for stage 1 and 2, we will be defining what to measure, write items, and then decide on our scaling and format. So we will discuss that in the next few slides. Kani tagsa-tagsa ni nato. And then on the stage 3 to 5, we will administer to sample, analyze statistically, then refine based on data. So we will try out on a certain sample. Usually, akong mabantayan sa research for scale developments or test developments, dili na mo ubos sa 1,000 ang ilahang sample size. Miss, moagi po mi ana, 1,000 jud ang mukhaon? No. Okay, so ang ato ang lab is simplified version of this one. Imong kabalaka na basig reklamo ta no sa din na kanang grabe sad uy pang masteral naman na kanang laboratory. No, ang akong goal is maka-appreciate mo sa process, so i-simplify ra nato ang mga workshops para maka-get mo sa sa feeling. Also taste it lang ba, pero just a caveat that what we will undergo sa atong laboratory is not as simple as the real process of test development. Very technical, very nuanced, and it involves jud very daga na very ato no, pero it involves mga statistical methods na dili siya ma-discuss sa mga undergrad students. That's why i-simplify nato ang version. So ay magkabalaka jud no. We're here to help you appreciate the entire process of it, not to scare you of the subject. So yeah, mo na siya ang mga 5 stages. We conceptualize, we construct the items through deciding on the scaling and format. We try it out in a certain sample. We analyze the items, see if unsay gamay og item discrimination index, gamay og item reliability index. Kung kinsa tong mga gagmay og R values, pangtanggalon na siya, and then balik dayon sa process no of revising it. It's an iterative cycle. Dili siya one-time process na after 5 na dayon ang test. After deleting the item na dayon. No, it's an ongoing process. So after revision, mo try out again sa certain sample, i-analyze na po siya balik until we achieve our standard. No, our kuan makaingon na, okay, this is a good test already. We can now use it for research. We can now use it as a diagnostic tool. We can now use it for school placement. Let's go sa first, which is test conceptualization. That's the stage 1, okay, of the whole process. Sa dining test conceptualization. So it's not just a single question. It involves a lot of question, which you will answer through research, through interviews perhaps, uban even if is measuring physiological aspects, no? So, unsay first question? What is the test designed to measure? And how will you define the construct? This is very important and usually anchored ni siya heavily on theories or existing studies of the construct. If bago pa jud ang construct na wala pa jud siya na-studyhan, usually ana is ato mong mga kanang pwede no content analysis. For example lang niha, ang red pill ideology, red here. This is an example. A red pill ideology, baguhay pa kay na siya. Example na ni gawas. So, unsay buhaton nimo to capture the construct? You could do content analysis sa tanang Reddit na mga forums. sa mga red pill content. Tan-amog tanang video involved discussing red pill content, no? So, igana ang inyong pagkuan capture. How do you define red pill ideology? So, next is it even needed? Why are you developing such a test? Kay kung ano mo, maghimo ko miss, o ang para sa mo ang kuan amo ang scale development mahimo kog adobo brownness scale. Unsa nang adobo brownness scale? Unique lagi na. I-rate ra namo miss unsa ka brown ang adobo. Okay? So, what's the use for that test? Di ba? Why do you even need to rate the brownness of the adobo? So what for? No, you need to justify unsay gap na iyang gi-fill. Is it to create a better test than the existing ones already? To shorten an existing personality scale kay taas ra kaayo siya? So you should be able to contribute sa science, sa literature. Next, who will take and use the test? Who is it intended for? Who are the test takers and who are the test users? Kisa man ng mga populations ang best suited for it? Is it for students? For working individuals? For teenagers? For adults? So, ana siya. Number 3. Next is, how will it be administered? Could it be administered individually, alone, or it can be administered individually and also group na testing, or is it for group testing alone? Or pwede siya ma-program sa computer. We have computerized adaptive testing. We'll talk about this one in the next few slides. Pero nga na siya, no? And next, say format sa item. Is it a rating scale? Is it a Likert scale? No, I agree, I disagree, I somewhat agree, I strongly disagree, gana siya, no? Or is it a yes or no format? Is it a checklist type? Like, kanang yes or no, true or false, A, B, C, D, kaya gana siya, usaman ang format sa item. And how will you interpret the score? So, nananidirita na, no, ang like, kanina certain scores from 50 to 100, pass. Kaning 49 to 0, fail, no? So, mag-justify na dayon mo, nga nung mo na imuhang cut-off score. Diba? So, dili beta ka basta establish sa to ang cut scores. Dapat ato po na siyang kanang undergo po na siya process. Remember sa atong test utility, right? Sa mga methods na atay Angov method, na atay known groups method. So, tanan ani gyud dapat po agi og process. Dapat na siya backing statistically. So, it should be back up through numbers. And then, mo na siya tanan ang test conceptualization. Overall, unsa man di ay ang product ani? Wala kay makitang test, wala kay makitang scale na walay research. Try og search sa Google Scholar. So go sa Google Scholar right now, scholar.google.com. So here I'll show you scholar.google.com. So nanatay sa Google Scholar, no. So butang tag attachment, style, questionnaire, scale development. Mo po ninyong buhaton to check if naa na ba naka-create og scale sa inyong construct of interest. So panalitan kanino baka kita mo og development a confirmatory factor analysis and validation of the vulnerable attachment style questionnaire. I-click na siya ang link, tanawan ninyo unsay sulod ana. So makakita mo mga very familiar words like item discrimination, validity, discriminant validity, construct validity. So walay scale na wala ni agi og extensive literature review. Okay, so mao na siya. Kanang mismo extensive literature review pud misa kanang amo ang scale dev. Yes, you will, but again, don't worry kay I will allow you to use AI. Just is it term na kanang ano lang siya ba, ibutang na siya daan na kanang unsa na AI inyong gigamit, unsa na prompts inyong gigamit. Ultimately, I'll show you the rubrics of how I grade, but it's basically measuring how you understand what you wrote. It's not about what you write, how you wrote it. Kay nag-expect na jud ko na students will use AI nowadays, especially sa kuan kay tanong constricted ka to ang time frame in terms of this one. So I will allow that. In fact, I will teach you some of the tools na akong gamiton to help me navigate it. What I will ultimately measure is how you defend your arguments verbally, how you understand what you wrote. Maura gina siya. No, there is a rubric for that. So I ladyo mo kabalaka in terms of the conceptualization aspect. Again, there will always be guidance and support for you to accomplish the courseworks that we will go through. And tagsa-tagsaon man sad nato, di man ta ditsoon dayon no na kanang mo na day ni inyong output, no. So mo to siya. Alam jud mo, don't let fear get in the way of you learning, no, and be interested in the process of it. So one of the things kung test developer ka, one of the things that you will decide is whether imuhang design sa imong test is it norm reference or is it criterion reference na test. Kay if norm reference imong test, remember this one na na kaning Gaussian curve. So kung norm reference imuhang test, ang imuhang scoring ana will depend on the kanang scores sa other test takers. So for example, like IQ, di ba? The kanang Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale. For IQ test, norm reference man ilahang kanang ilahang type of scoring. So if that's the case, then a score of 100 means na your average compared to the whole population that took the test relative to the people that took the test. So if naapo ka diri, no, that's also relative to the people that took the test, meaning your score will depend on the performance of others. So compared to criterion reference, it will not matter whether or not you are here, you are here, or you are here. Doesn't matter. Kaya there is a certain standard that you should accomplish. So how, if you're a test developer, since we're already talking about test development, how will you create a criterion reference test? So example for if you want to test out the mathematics ability score or kanang ilang ability in terms sa math, in its criterion reference, there is a cut score wherein makaingon ka na, okay, this person does not have the necessary skills for math, so di siya pwede i-recommend for a mathematics program. So, test developer ko, akong buhaton is mo sample ko ani, no? I have a bunch of test items, and then these test items, I would let a two groups of people, one scoring very high in math, so katong mga geniuses sa math, or kanang naa sa mathematics program currently, or ilahang, kung ano, ilahang work is with regards to math. So, again, dapat relevant siya, of course, kay mo scale about math man. And those that scored lows, patong mga nahagbong sila mathematics scores. Okay, so, inga na. So, if I have an item here, example, item 1, so, daghan na siya item ha, ang test. Usahay, maabot na siya 100 even. So, save na lang na. Atong test is up to 20 items. So, kaning item 1, makaibaw ko na it's a good item if ang kung ano, ako na siya i-compare ani. Na if kani siya, makakorek siya ani na item, that means na kanang this has good item discrimination. This is a sneak peek later sa atong item analysis. So basically, that is how criterion reference is kanang or item is developed. So meaning makaibaw na dayon ta ani no. So, it doesn't matter if your your task is criterion reference. It doesn't matter if say in a group in a certain group you scored the highest sa mathematic test. Pero Canadian group consists of kindergartens, di ba? So, your position, no, kay ikaw may highest, kung naa ka diri, does not matter for criterion reference test as compared to norm reference. Kay, again, there's a certain level of ability that you should accomplish for you to say na okay, this person contains this ability, this person is smart, this person can move to the next level. So example ani mga driver license exam, mga medical board exam, kana mga board exams, that's also a criterion reference testing na kani mga classroom mastery test. So let's proceed to stage 2, which is scaling methods. So once you know what you're measuring, we're done with conceptualization, and then usay mong approach whether it is criterion reference or norm reference testing. Now you need to decide how to scale your item or your task rather. So we have here a bunch. We'll discuss 3, which is in our given source. So we have rating scales, and ang pinaka-common ana is a Likert scale. A Likert scale is a rating and a summative type of scale. And this is what you also usually use in research sa mga social sciences, okay? So, pinaka-common ani is agree, disagree, continuum. Pwede po ng strongly applies to me, mga ano, so pwede siya ma-change. And ang pinaka mo work best ani is from 1 to 5. So, 1, strongly disagree, then 5, strongly agree. Money best ka ng number for it. So, example ani, ano, check if you think this one, whether unsay rating nimo, with regards to a certain statement. So for example, this one of cheating on taxes if you have a chance. So for me, this is rarely justified na lang. Bisag atong taxes, no, kay di ta kay bawas sa gikuan. So anyway, this is a type of Likert scale. Now, unsa nang paired comparisons? You're forced to choose. You're forced to choose between just 2 stimuli. In this case, our stimuli is a statement. Why did I say stimuli? Na mag-iuban na mag-use dili statement, rather mga cards, objects, di ba? Because we have nonverbal test man. So, example, select the behavior that you think would be more justified. Cheating on taxes or accepting a bribe in the course of one's duties. So, for me, mailhan mataan A ko, no? So, cheating on taxes because of, for various reasons, I live in the Philippines. So, that is a paired comparison. So, before the test is developed, na ay mga experts ana na mag-rate, okay, example, kani siya no, mga ingon ta na morality scale, something. I would rate this one as earning, the test taker will get 1 point and this one for 0 point. On top of, when you add it, ang score na taas would rate na naakay taas kag morality, nga na ba, in a sense. No, so, na siya awarding of points sometimes na kani siya, 0 ni siya if mo choose siya ani, nya 1 ni siya towards a certain ability, towards a certain construct. Be it morality, sensitivity, unsa pa na din ano, mga emotional regulation, o brain rot, pwede po. So, depende na siya sa statement. So, let's move on po sa mga kanang sorting task, no? There are two. So, for example, naa kay unsa ning comparative scaling, you're given like index card, sorting man siya. Di man siya kanang statements nga mag-rate ka. So, for comparative scaling, you will rank or sort items relative to each other and it creates an ordinal data through comparison. So, example ani, for each pair of flavors, paired comparison man din siya. Anyway, let's pretend na lang na this is not a paired comparison. No? Please indicate which one you prefer. So, for example, imbes na kani ang statement is rank which flavors you prefer. So, given that these are separate index cards. So, I'm given 8 index cards and so I would rank this one first. No, sample, black currant peach. Second, nina ko raspberry, 3, then 4, 5, so on and so forth. No? So that is then, because I sorted it out through my preference of these kinds of partnered flavors, that is a type of comparative scaling. Again, this is a sorting task. Please don't confuse this one with comparative rating scaling. That's different. That is a rating scale, no? Naamagoy pain scale na kanang for kids ba na naay bitay face, happy, sad, kanang like sad na kaayo. So rating scale siya, rate from 1 to 10 asa ka diri na category na belong. So that is a type of comparative rating scale. That is not a comparative scaling because comparative scaling is a sorting task. Comparaton ka, nagali rate from 1 to 10, that is a rating scale, not a kanang sorting task. So let's move to the next three, which is categorical scaling. So, katong example no, na kanang asa dito imuhang preference, i-rank to a resort ang index card, kani siya, isort nimo ang stimuli into discrete categories. So, for example, naay tulo ka category si test developer. Number 1 is, I really like this one, this flavor. Number 2 is, okay, I can do without it. I can also, I like it. I cannot say I like it or I don't like it. I'm just okay with it. And then, kani siya is, I really hate this flavor, no? So, imo dayon na siyang isort na index card sa mga type of kanang flavoring. So, unsa ni siya na kanang type of scales usually gamiton? Consumer psychology, business psychology, no? Kung naay product na ipa-test out or pa-rate. And then, because you're sorting it to 3 categories, that is a categorical scaling. Like comparative scaling, this is also a type of sorting task. Next is the Gutman scale. Now, for Gutman scale, naay certain kanang statements, right? From A, B, C, and D. A then is considered the most extreme. Kung ako, test taker ko, choose ko aning A. So, when I select A, that means I also agree to B, C, and D nga naman. Because they all say the same thing. This one is just stated in the most extreme way. And if I don't agree with this one then, with letter A, I just agree with B. Then, for Gutman scale, I also agree with C and D. Okay, nga na siya, no? Items range from weak to strong expression. Agreeing with a stronger item implies agreement with all weaker items. So if I just agree with letter D, then I don't agree with the rest of the statement. Just that, this is very vague. This is also a weaker statement compared to letter A. Now, let's proceed to Thurstone, which is very complicated. Scalogram analysis, no? Kanang, doubt if kung ano siya sa undergrad. Not even in Master did this appear, no? So you will not dig deep on this one. Just the thought behind it is that when you're creating a certain items on a scale, the attitude scale for social sciences, ang judges ana mo rate siya 1 to 9. Ang ratings kwaon ang standard deviation ana niya. And if ang item is low SD, gamay siya SD, this is indicative that an item is good to be part of that scale. Okay, that's it lang ang Thurston kanang equal appearing. So again, ang kaning Thurston iyang murabag i-consider ang item as interval. Remember, there was an argument back then. Binet said this, that most psychological constructs are really ordinal in nature. So Thurston looks at it, especially for when you're applying it in social science concepts, he looks at it at rating man sa judges, no? Scaling. So, mukuha kag mean and SD, gi-interpret siya in a way na the data is interval rather than ordinal. Okay, and our discussion question is for you to think on what we just discussed and apply. So you're measuring public speaking anxiety. Would you use a Likert scale, paired comparison? And if you look at the two, what are the trade-offs of each approach? All right? Pause the video, think of your answer, then we'll move on to the next topic. So let's move on now to the type of item formats. So kung katong ato ang attachment style na questionnaire, what do you think is the item format ato? Is it multiple choice, matching, or true or false? Okay, so think lang ana sa inyong head. Because this is very easy to understand. You're very familiar with multiple choice. Pero when I say why is letter A correct but B and C and D is not correct, I'm talking about the distractors. So katong mga dili correct answer, this is the distractor. Usually, a good multiple choice has one item na correct, another item na medyo confusing siya na could be the correct answer pero dili di ay mo ni siya pinaka kanabitang makalibog gyud siya na could be this one pero di siya ang true answer. So another two is kani siya answer no obvious na dili good answer, and then another one na kanang di obvious na dili answer. So usually mo na siya kanang standard makaingon ka na it's a good type of kanang question no na multiple choice. So, unsay best practices in making a multiple choice exam? Grammatically parallel alternatives, similar length options, avoid all or none of the above. So, sayop na taanin no, daghan kog test na naigani. Okay, so sige na lang good class, pagbigyan niyo ako. And then one clearly correct answer. So, napo yung mga another bad practice sa multiple choice is a ridiculous answer no. So, katong ako ang true or false nya somewhat true o katong I don't know, katong letter D na I don't know is dili unta siya kanang best practice sa multiple choice no, but again to that letter D is for you to increase your probability kay ABC naman, so increase yung probability na maski dili mo kay sa answer maka-guess mo correctly, di ba? Kay 25% man na ang probability na mag-guess lang ka kay tagna ko A, B kay murag ang pattern kay A na ni sunod. Okay, so na correct ka, nya nagtagna ra man ka 25% imong chance na ma-correct siya. Now, matching is there is a premise here and then there's a response here. So, for kids, remember, pag kids, mag-ana naman ta, di ba? Mag-brag ka ng linya. Pero sa adults, no, mag-ana na lang. Mag-type na lang sa kanang kuan sa kilid. So, A, C, D, E, F, G. So, nga mo, balik na itag bata, kay mas ningaw man ni maglinya na. Bitaw. Anyway, best practice sa kanang matching type of item response, homogeneous ang list. So, dapat, usara jud ka construct inyo hangi talk about, dili kay maglahi-lahi. So for example, if you wanna match the author of the theory, the title of the theory, so example, B.F. Skinner, behavioral ko ano, so usa pa na, five-factor model, FFM, so etc. no, so naadiri ang mga theories, yan naadiri ang mga kanang theorists or the scholars and the scientists. So homogeneous dapat imong list, dili kay maglahi-lahi na kani siyang sa premise na adiri ang naadiri ang mga theories, naapo diri ang kanang mga names sa artista, naapo diri ang mga names sa kanang mga names sa president. Okay, that's not good kay lahi man na siya, heterogeneous naman imong list. And then ang another best practice is that you have more responses than the premises. Kay if equal lang ang both, the last item is also subject to guessing. Meaning, makorek sila just because they skip the item and then because equal man ang numbers sa response and premise, makaguess sila sa PCAS. And the next is, the maximum is 10 to 12 premises and then allow responses to be used multiple times. Okay, next is true or false. Very easy. A single idea per item. Avoid double negatives. Not subject to debate. And then quick to write. And guessing is 50%. So, manang na true or false na mura siya multiple choice kay it requires critical thinking bitaw na kanang asa man diri na statement ang naka-wrong niya. Okay, so usahay na apoy murag I don't know usay term na multiple choice na kanang bitaw na statement mo na kag both statements are correct. First statement is correct. Second statement is correct. Only the second statement is correct, or both statement is false. So those type of true or false is not really binary. It's still multiple choice because it asks you to think critically of the answer. Okay, so yeah. Now we also have constructed response na item formats. So this one, katong previous, these are selected response item. Meaning si test taker, mo choose siya no sa mga responses niya. But in the second part, the test taker will create. That's why this is called the constructed response item formats. Now, unsa ni siya ang kanang distinction sa duha? For selected response, recognition and recall ra siya. For For constructed response, organization, expression, also kanang creative, kung ano, creative, kasi term na, kanang creative or synthesizing all the ideas the person has read upon. So, usay trade-off niya, essays allow depth but have scoring subjectivity. As mentioned, katong case, bitaw na a bunch of raters scored a person's essay containing the same question and the same answer very differently. Grabe kayo iyang variability sa scoring, meaning low iyang interscorer reliability. So that is one of the things na bati sa essay, subjectivity. So ako, maestra ko, nya ganahan ko ani na student, maka-influence yun na some way or another unless I have a very specific criteria containing key phrases, containing a specific word sa essay na kung ma-mention na dira sa student, that accounts for 1 point. 2 points, 3 points, ano. So, pwede man na siya ma-structured ang essay, structured scoring sa essay. And ano lang, ang structured scoring for essay is kanang lisod buhaton na kanang kapoy ka na siya ihimo no og score. So, of course, tao man ka, nya ikaw scorer ka, nya teacher ka, or sa din no, you would rather na mo kuha na lang no based on your intuition kung sa imo score. Next is completion items. You provide a word or phrase to complete a sentence. So, blank is the blah blah blah. So, that is a completion item. The blah blah is blank. So, when I blank, yeah, complete ka, that is a completion item. Now, short answer constructed response is just a word, term, sentence, or brief paragraph. May pagkapareha siya, but kanang ang difference lang ani niya is difference ani sa completion item, you just need to say a word, no, or one response. One response or siya, more siya identification. But kaning short answer, either a key phrase, a certain word, so or rather very briefly lang nakuan. So kind of like sa orals in a sense, especially if ako yung the type of kanang person ko kung mag-orals, I would rather na dili bitaw liko-liko, like straight to the point imo ang answer. So what I'm usually getting at is not really a verbalized essay, but rather a short answer constructed response na kanang format. Then essay is you write. That's the difference of these. So you write a composition demonstrating recall, understanding, analysis, and interpretation. So if you're asked to write an essay with regards to the ethical and unethical administration of tests, that means it a more comprehensive tackling of ideas with regards to kung ano, if essay. If it's just brief, then maybe that is not an essay. That's just a short answer constructed the response item format. Okay. I have your question. For psychology exam, 50 multiple choice questions versus 3 essay questions, what does each format measure best and when would you choose one over the other? Again, kung maghimo kag psychology exam and you're asked to choose between a 50 multiple choice question or 3 essay question, what do you think measure the exam best, the multiple choice or the essay question? So let's move on now to stage 3 and 4. So we're done now with stage 1 and 2, which is mainly like conceptualization and pag-construct nyo sa inyong item. We already established na we cannot just directly construct item based on wala lang, kaya this is what we think the item should contain, no? Or this is what the construct is all about. It should always be backed by kanang existing literature or through interviews, perhaps. Okay, so dapat good na ay rationale why there's a need to examine or even make that test, because again, if wala siya gamit nga no mag-make pa makagikan na test no naghasol-hasol ra ka sa imong self, dungag ra kag kanang problema sa world. Anyway, let's move on to 3 and 5. 3 to 5, which is first tryout and item analysis. So for stage 3, test tryout, of course, you will not be able to establish that your items are good, no, contains all these, if you don't do tryouts. So what does tryout mean? Meaning getting those data, no, getting those numbers. So for you to get those numbers, you need to ask people who is your target for that test to answer it. And there is a general thumb for how much, or rather how many people you need to obtain for you to get a kanang enough respondents to avoid phantom effects. That's usually happening for small sample size. Kay gamay man imong sample size, dili siya na siya characteristics na mo emerge na dili gid siya kanang dili siya generalizable to the entire population. So wala siya gitawag na phantom effects, na phantom factors. So to avoid that, of course, you need 10 respondents per item. That's the general rule of thumb. The more respondents you have, the better your coverage would be, the better your analysis would be. So your number of items when you construct it, say for example, you plan your test to just have around around 15 items. So it should be double. So because you just plan to have 15 items, it should be twice or thrice the number. Okay, what's the reason for this? Nga nung i-multiply man nimo by 2 or 3? Because along the way, there will be items na dili siya pasok sa standard. In a sense, when we say pasok sa standard, giratean siya low for kanang relevance sa mga experts and gamay po siya reliability and validity. That's for usually for research, no? And for example, for achievement tests, that's common in school placements or educational settings or licensure exams, bati siya og item difficulty og item discrimination. So that's why you have to make an item that's twice the original planned number of items that you want. Then of course, once that's done, you then get the number of respondents. You multiply the 30 since you have 30 items here. You multiply it by 10, so you need to get around 300 respondents to answer your test questionnaire or your scale or your whatever you want to call it. Okay, so after getting the data, we now proceed to item analysis. So kaning item analysis, you would get, depende na siya sa imuhang goal. Kung imuhang goal is to really just establish na, kana example, for research, the most common process reviewed is especially if na-establish na iyahang validity. Meaning, naanay other developer na naka-establish ani, na butangan na use na po siya for that. For example, you wanna conduct research sa Filipino people, no? And then kani siya na scale, nagamit na siya sa mga Pinoy. So all you need to establish is reliability. So you just wanna make sure na all of the respondents they have consistency in terms of the scoring, no? But if you're making a test, no, if you're just making pa, you're the one constructing it, then it would help for you to establish its validity. And we will show you how later, how that's conducted. So you already know concurrent validity, di ba? Na when there's an existing established test, imo na siyang ipatake sa kanang population na interest nimo, then imuhang current na gidevelop na test, imo po yung ipatake sa kanina population, na imo na siyang i-correlate. If taas siya correlation, maka-establish tag concurrent validity, di ba? Remember our topic on validity? But anyway, you will just do a refresher on that later in our laboratory. And then we will discuss this in the next few slides, and item characteristics curve as well. So those comprise item analysis. Let's go first with item reliability. So you don't need to bother with the calculations because again, naanatay tool for that. In fact, I'll show you how to do it in a few slides. But this is the kanang formula for kanang for understanding in simpler terms. So for us to have a data with regards to how the item contributes to the test quality. So we have a reliability index, item reliability index, and item validity index. Do not confuse this one with the whole test reliability and the whole test validity. Okay, but it will be shown ragyapon in our kanang calculation later. So again, reliability, to give you a refresher, it measures the internal consistency. So it's item 1, item 2, item 3, all have consistent scores or consistently kanang informs this certain construct. So anang item reliability. And then item validity index is how well item predicts external criterion. Okay, so item 1, 2, and 3 all contributes beneficially to that test item and helps capture a construct that it was intended to capture. So that's item validity. So here I'll show you how to calculate item reliability in Jamovi. So I'll show you how to download Jamovi. It's just free. Napod siya for Mac, MacBook, and napod siya for Windows. So yun siya. You can even search now, no? I'm sure you guys are techie. Once you have this, you just copy this one. This is an actual data from my research, and this is a scale, no, the roll overload scale. So this is already a validated scale, so I just copied it. So you click analyze, factor, and then reliability analysis. On this side here, you transfer it to the items na box, and then i-click nimo ang Cronbach's alpha and the item rest correlation. And kanang dili mo wala mo ni reverse item, so no need na ka mo transfer sa Picas box. So makita nimo ni Cronbach alpha with 0.87, and makita nimo na if i-drop nimo na siyang item, mutaas ba ang Cronbach alpha. If makita ninyo wala ra ni taas like this one here, then it's not really necessary to do anything about it. So ang gibuhat ani, no, for Jamovi, iyang gigamit is split half reliability analysis. So dili na siya kaning makaingon ta bitaw na kani siyang item ni individually ba unsayahang kanang correlation. Now this one here informs the item kanang discriminant validity. Item discrimination index. Okay, so anything below 0.3 is or should be dropped na item. So balik ko na ko ha. Ang cronback alpha is our kanang tutukan gyud. Kung diri gali walay mo improve, for example, if item 2 will be dropped and ang change niya is 0.9, that's a very big difference sa cronback alpha. So it is possible that RO2 is not really a good and a reliable item. So you should delete it or you should revise it. And once you do that, once naalay usa ka item na dili nimo i-appeal sa entire questionnaire, you need to do it again. No? You need to get to do a tryout again in a new sample. So remember na ay kuan siya no kanang dili siya one stage process cycle siya na okay na akay gi-edit na pud sa item. Balik na po kasugod kuha og sample and then analyze na po kabalik until you achieve a cronback alpha that will satisfy the test psychometric soundness. And here dako siya no ato cronback alpha 0.87. Right here pug ka makakita, I don't know if this is the same as the item correlation matrix sa SPSS, but there's an inter-item kanang correlation. Dito makitaan ang redundancy sa item. So kung more than taas kayo iyang correlation, you double check it sa kung ano sa item. I think dili mo maka-visualize if wala ko ipakita. But SPSS banggo di siya user-friendly, so I just decided not to show it to you. Just the movie kay simple kay siya interface and student-friendly. But anyway, maybe in the future we'll learn about SPSS. So enough of reliability. Let's move on now to item validity. So, di ba, what we normally do is, again, we do Pearson correlation for item validity to capture the concurrent. Usually, against sa research, if for psychology, ang gamiton dyan is concurrent validity. Kaya usually mag-make og scale na better than what's already an existing scale, di ba? Mo man na usually ang kuan sa research, ang progress sa research. So, what happens usually is kato siya no, magkuha mo established scale and then inyo ipatake sa inyong participants. Imo pong ipatake after taking the test sa inyong gi-develop, inyo tanawon if taas ang correlation. Kung taas correlation, that gives you a concurrent validity. This is different, no? This is content validity index. Remember, there's phase validity, content validity, and concurrent validity. So kato kong dimension na katong construct validity rather, katong concurrent predictability, discriminant evidence, and convergent evidence, that's under construct validity. Okay? So when we say content, does the item measure or sample, or is it relevant to the construct in question? So, mo ni siya no? Una, tanawon ang objective sa instrument no na sa instruction, klaro ba siya ang taste kanang questionnaire in your scale? Format, is it appropriate to your sample? What if your sample are people that cannot read and then verbal mo kuan, di ba? Font size, okay? What if it's for the geriatric population? Gamay kay mo font size. So is the instructions clear? Is the measurement scale appropriate? So naa din na siya rating, no? And then after that is naa pa siya item rating. So kani siya individual item ni siya sa kanang ilahang questionnaire, no? So kanang makita nimo here na 4 akong gi-rate kay relevant siya. So how did I rate it? Dili wala na ko ni gimata-mata. Akong gitanaw ang RRL nila, no, ilang RRL ug ilang theoretical background. So dito nyo makita na okay, correct, naka-mention siya sa cap, no, part siya sa item, it is relevant, and part siya sa relevant po siya sa kanang sample na ilang interested to for people to take this scale or questionnaire. And then they're not just giving it to me, no, I'm just one of the experts on this one. They're giving it to other panels as well, no, expert panels. And once the psychometrician in their school kanang get the entire kanang ratings or index, iyan na siyang CVR, no, which is you know about it already, diba? Content validity ratio. So that's how this is calculated. Gikan ani na form. So let's move now to item difficulty index, which is represented by the small p na kanang letter. Do not confuse this one with the kanang p is less than 0.05. No, those p is different. This is a statistics probability ba na significant or dili by chance ang nahitabo sa imong study. Kay ba naman mo ani ha? Do not confuse this one. No? This is the index for difficulty. Ang iyahalang kanang symbol. So, ang item difficulty is calculated by numbers correct. So, pila ka buok sa tanang test taker, pila ka buok ang nasaktuan na over the total examinees. This index is usually a measure if the item is good for achievement test or school placement. Pero practical wise, it's only used for state licensure exams. Dili siya magamit sa classroom quizzes. Kay imagine, gabaha na ng work sa inyong mga teachers, no? Nya, dagdagan pag yun nimo na ipa-analyze nimo per quiz. No, it's not practical. No? So that's why it's only used for state licensure exams. Kanang board exam nyo pohon, it underwent item analysis. No? It underwent item difficulty na analysis. So if your P is 0, that means your test is to if your test is 0 or your index is 0, that means everyone got the item wrong. Bali siya, no? Sorry about that. Too easy, if everyone got them right, that will be 1 here. Okay? Sorry for the typo. And then it's too hard if everyone got the item wrong, so the P would be 0. Again, let me repeat that. If it's everyone got the item right, there's a problem, no? There's a problem because kanang that is too easy na item, so the P there would be 1. Then if everyone got it wrong, including those that are, projected to do well with exams, those who studied well, no, those bunch of people, then your test item is too hard. And that will likely have a value of a difficulty index of 0. So if we ask like how can we calculate the total test item difficulty index, you do it by averaging, no? So if you have item 1 2 3 down to 30, imo na siyang i-average tanan, and that will be your item difficulty index. Our ideal would be 0.5 with varying difficulty index, no, through 0.3 or 0.8. Manang sa licensure exam, makakita mo sa table of specifications na there are 30 questions that are easy, 40 that are moderate or average, and 30 that are hard. It mimics actually the normal curve, no? So, mostly sa average, daghan. Diri na mga items, gamay lang, no? So, inga na ang ilahang ideal na makaingon sila, nindot ni siya na difficulty index kay nearing siya sa 0.5 ang iyahang average kanang difficulty index. So, remember the P index lang para dili maglibog sa P value. Ang point, okay, 0.3 below should be reconsidered. Okay, so 0.3 gali. Sorry, naapil ni siya, no? Kani. 0.3 below should be reconsidered. So it could be very difficult na even your high scorers maglisod sa imong exam, no? So imo na siyang i-delete or i-revise ang item. Pero nga ni gali imong values, no? That's a good item. Or it has a good item difficulty index. So let's go over kanang item discrimination. So your item discrimination is how it's able to determine or separate the high scorers from the low scorers. That's why ang iyahang formula is upper minus lower divided by the total number of test takers. For if you want to use the D index, you usually just get 27%, especially for big data. Example, na kay 1,000 ka test takers sa achievement test. So, if you want to use the D index here, right here, you can just get the 27%. Pila may 27% sa 1,000? So, okay, you do the math, right? So, 27% sa upper and then sa lower 27% pod. Then you subtract it and then you divide it by 1,000. Then you get the discrimination index for that certain item. So, if we get a D value of 1, that means perfect, no? And all high scorers were right. All low scorers were wrong. So this is the ideal. The closer it is to 1, then the bigger the number is. That means the better your discrimination index is. Okay, so let me repeat that. The bigger your value is for discrimination index, the better your discrimination power or discrimination power for that item. As you can see here, now this one is kind of like in the middle, no? 0.45, right? Medyo siya. It's a good item in terms of discrimination. But if it's a negative value, you should be worried. Why? It's a problematic item. Kay, what happens is, since imo siyang gi-minus ang upper to lower, meaning daghan ang lower, dako man ni siya na number, no? Panalitan, you have a total of 20 test takers, right? And then ang imong upper, tulura ang na-correct ana na item. Ang imuhang low scorers, 17 kabuok, na-correct ana na item. So, imo na siyang i-minus, makakuha kag negative, pila man? Negative 14. So, negative 14 divided by 20, that is a negative number. So, that means, daghan kaayo sa mga low scorers ang nakakorek sa item. So, daghan ang nakakorek sa item na low scorers, that means, wala naka-properly discriminate ang item nimo from the high scorers to the low scorers. Now, what do researchers usually use? Well, we use point by serial, no, because if it is written in the data, no, when it's encoded, it is like coded by 0, meaning wala na correct sa item, and 1 na correct siya sa item. So I'll show you this para makuha siya, no, makitaan gud siya. So here's an example of item analysis. I mentioned, di ba, na i-0 yung na wrong siya ani. So S9 is the student, and then the item is 10 kabuok. So to get the item discrimination, you need to total the kuan first, no? And then to to code it para ma-point by serial correlation siya, you just put correl, and then you get the sum of the entire entire column, then also the total column. Okay? And then you will get now your item discrimination. Okay? So una kay imuhan ni siyang i-total kani siya. So kani siya per respondent na iyahang score, no, pila iyang nakakuan. Out of 9/10 iyahang iyahang total score, and then imo din na i-correlate. So that's how you get your item discrimination. Now, for item difficulty sa yun ra kaayong kay na-code na siya, binary coding na siya. Imo na lang buhaton is i-point by i-average nimo siya. So even if i-manual na nimo, i-count nimo na ay 15 kabuok na correct. And then na ay total 30 ni take sa exam. So if 15 divided by 30 is 0.5. So even if you manually do it, the same ra gyapon siya values. So better yet, just code it sa Excel, right? And in fact, you can also just do this one sa Jamovie. So sa Jamovie, imo ra siyang i-copy paste, no. So ako ning natag example ha, ako sa ning delete para makakuan gid siya. Yung mabalik ta dito sa kanang ato ang Excel sheet, and then atong i-copy paste. No? So for the variable names, kung nahani mo ilisan, you just click the variables na section. I don't wanna ilis it man, so just retain lang. So ato nang kopyahon ning item 1 to the total column. Remember to include the total column because that's your basis baya for the point by serial. So ini-copy nimo, no, control V, imo din ato ka sa analyze, no, analysis, then regression, correlation matrix. Then you put everything, item 1 down to item total, to the right column, and then ang nice ani Jamovie, no, kay diretso siya mo reflect sa kilid. Then you click Pearson, even if Pearson R siya, because our data is coded, has a binary coding, automatic na siya mo point by serial. You look at the item total na row, kay matrix mo gani siya, so nag-show siya correlation between item 2, item 1, okay, kita mo ani na item 2, item 1, item 3, then item 1, then ang item total then is mo na siya ang correlation or R value per item. So kana sa item 1, 8.84, 0.70, and 0.699. Tanaw to if the same ang calculation sa Excel. May wala man nakita, pero let's see, balik ha. Asaman to. Tara, 0.84, 0.70, and 0.699. So same ra gid siya. 0.84, 0.70, and 0.699. Ko mas sapsay, mas nice ang Jamovie kay madriso man siya copy good. Mas preferred siya sa ubang researchers kay APA format na siya ba niya, madriso siya copy. So that's it. That's the beauty of it all. Na natay tools na hindi na mag-manual. Okay? Pero kung ganahan mo mag-lisod-lisod sa inyong life pag manual mo. So we're done talking about the rest of the item analysis indices. Now let's look at item characteristic curves. So the ICC is a graph of how an item performs across different levels. So the x-axis ani niya is ang ability level, and then the y-axis is the proportion of correct response. So basically, it shows us by visualization sa graph kung ang item has good discriminant ability. So naa siya better discrimination than that certain item if it has a steep slope. Like this one, no? Kay makita naman diri na ang remember the x-axis is the ability, no? Shows the ability. So mga low ability, for example, low scorers in intelligence tests has the probability to get the response or to get this item correct. Yung probability is also low. So meaning, mukod mo discriminate yun siya between those who have high ability in this scenario, no, high intelligence test scores, and for that certain item, to have a good discrimination. And kani siya per item ni siya ang visualization sa graph, no, and kani siya ang score sa tanang test taker. So the higher the ability that person has, the more chance that person or the more probability it has in answering that item correctly. So mo na gitawag na item discrimination, no, good item discrimination. Okay? So, dili negative ang discrimination din, di ba? So, if you use siya sa usual language, naaman siya tendency na ma-misconstrue siya, nabati, no? But a good item that has high item discrimination means it is a good item. And kani siya, look at this graph right here. So ang graph na ay kuan, no? Na ay igani na naong tanawan ninyo. Kung ang person has low intelligence score or has really a low intelligence, and then money siya ang item, say this is item B. So money si person no. Pagkakuan siya kanang bugoon. Ang kaning item B, dako noon siya chance to get a correct response to the item. So bali siya no. This does not really give us a kanang kuano a good item discrimination. Na kay ang mga low intelligence ability, low IQ di ay kasagaran makorek ani na item, so dili siya nice na item. Bali man siya. So next, let's look at this ICC graph wherein the peak is in the middle. Inaadiri. So say pasabot ani. Kung average level imong ability, say for example ako, no? Me, na siya good discrimination, no? Here in the middle. Pero dili ra pod kutob, no? From the low ability group to the average or kanang naay moderate levels of that ability group, only kana ra ang ma-discriminate sa item. Ang group, no? The group that usually scores high, nung panalitan si Einstein diri, sige lang ko example ni Einstein, no? Sige ra magid ako na bright. Oh, so ingana no, so panalitan no si Einstein, si Alexa, si Bruneto na dinhi, di ba? So si G na dinhi, di ba? Sila dili ni sila ma-discriminate tarong. Okay, so mo ni siya bati pud ni siya na item no kay dili siya ka-discriminate sa high ability group. And this one right here is cut off siya no, sharp iyang cut off. So unsay meaning ani na graph? This one right here depicts an item that shows a cut off, okay? So if it is about a mastery test, na there is a certain cutoff score, then this will be a good item. But it cannot distinguish the rest of the abilities. No, kaya naram siya certain cutoff score for this one right here. So muna siyang ang item characteristic curves. So to repeat myself for item D, below it, dili na siya no. And diri, pasar ka. So again, it's just a mastery item siya. So again, this is the ideal one if you're looking at an ICC curve na naong sa imuhang kanang curve, no? And you say the item has good item discrimination. So unsay gamit sa ICC, dagan kay siya gamit, no? Pwede siya maka-determine kung unsay essential item to be part of an item bank, no? And it is also a foundation for CAT. Unsa na siyang CAT? It is computerized adaptive testing. So if you don't know, this is what the NCLEX tests use. So it is calibrated na if a test taker has a certain number of response na siya code ba na or program siya na if example kaduha na ka na wrong, then kanina question ang i-show nimo. So program siya, and the data where it is programmed on is based on IRT, no, or item response theory, and the ICC curve or the item characteristic curves. Okay? So unsa gali na unsa ang gali ng computerized adaptive testing? How does it work? So usually you will be given an item wherein it is medium in difficulty, no? So if you get this item right, then the computer would serve you a harder item than the first item you answered. And if you get it wrong, the computer would give you an item that will be easier in your level. Again, it is calibrated, it is programmed that it is specific, no, to the test ability of the test takers kung unsa ang gawas na item. So, muna siya no, mga example, GRE, NCLEX, no, and mga newly developed personality measures right now are also usually use computerized adaptive testing. So, unsay benefits sa CAT, no? Usually, ang need na i-generate na item is 50% fewer. There's also less error because, again, standardized kayo, kay computer man ang nag-score, computer ang nag-program and everything. So, it also reduces floor and ceiling effects, diba? We remember the floor effect as the test being too easy that we cannot discriminate between low ability test takers, no? Dili mahibaw-an ang kanang kung ano di siya mahibaw-an ba ang kisa magidiri ang kanang naka-score low. And if the test is to ibalik kani siya no, to the left end of the tail, meaning the negative 3 SD population, so the lower half of the 2.5%, dili siya makadistinguish mo na ang floor effect. Ang ceiling effect is the plus 3 SD or the upper 2.5%, dili pud ka-detect sa mga ang floor effect, dili ka-detect sa kanina abilities, no, the test takers at the higher end of the ability or trait. Okay, NCAT reduces that because again, though imo response to a certain item is curated by a computer program. And we also have a qualitative analysis. So from the word itself, those everything that we just discussed is a quantitative item analysis. Those item reliability, validity, difficulty, and discrimination index are all quantitative. So unsa na qualitative? Well, basically you interviewon ka right after no. Kumusta man ang test? Do you think there are any sensitivity issues or sensitivity or cultural sensitivity issues that we're not aware of? Are there wordings that could potentially bias a certain group from the test? So, ano, no, it's sort of like a sensitivity review, kana siya, no? So, expert panels examine items for potential bias and also a think aloud administration. So they uncover how the test taker thought of answering the item. And if they got it wrong, what's their thought process? Why do they chose the wrong item? So, inig-answer nila, mag-think aloud sila. So, that is the qualitative item analysis. Now, after everything, no, after all that's done, there will then be a test revision. So, remember, once you kanang generate a certain item, you constructed an item, you analyze it, by a certain criteria, you include a certain item in an item bank. Okay? And then you administer it, and you found, again, a faulty item, you delete it, you need to revise it. So when do we revise a test? No, if we have dated materials, if there are vocabulary changes, for example, what are the changes that we have now? No, we have the word smize. Okay. Panangitan gi appeal ni siya sa test no na kanang I tend to smize, no, smile with my eyes. And in the next few generation, ang mga Gen Alpha, di nakasabot ani yung sa maning smiles, no? So you need to revise your test. The same as with offensive content. Remember back then, they used openly the term moron to describe a certain person that scored that test or feeble-minded. Di ba na class grade A moron, di ba na may nga na. So you need to revise those tests if it has that offensive content, especially for a changing time na dili na siya up kanang allowable to use those kinds of language. If there are outdated norms and of course theory evolution. And if there is a certain theorist or a group of researchers that says wrong man siguro yung pagka-capture sa construct, kay there are other manifestations of this construct, panalitan, wala ni mo ni na-cover na aspect. Sa school, makita man ni sa school. So kung na theorist na may nga na or researcher na may nga na I need to revise that test. Because remember, di man tamang patakag mo og test. Anchored man na siya always on theory. Anchored na siya always on research, on data. Okay? And after, usa ni siyang cross-validation, no? So, cross-validation is revalidating it on a different sample. So, there it is expected now once a test has already undergone a validation in the first phase, in the second phase, the number there or the validity index will shrink. So that is what we call shrinkage, no? Validity shrinkage. And it's normal. Okay, if this does not happen, you need to be wary of the results sa inyong test. So, normal rin na siya. Especially in my, I've also observed this one, na lahi-lagi ang, although reliable gapon siya, and valid, no, lahi ang number na na-produce sa actual test developer sa ako ang nakuha na results. Okay, so yan na siya. And the entire thing, the entire revision is not, it sounds simple, it sounds straight to the point, but test revision often takes a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy. So sometimes, revise na sila sa test, maabtan na sila 10 years just revising one test alone. So how do the researchers cut back on cost? No, they do co-validation. So they hire a certain group of people, say 1,000 group of people. They hire like a panel of experts, no, that will sample or will validate and co-norm multiple tests. So essentially, they're still using the same sample for different tests for one test developer. Okay? So mao ni siya ang co-validation and co-norming. That is to cut back on cost in terms of the test development. That's it, we're done. And here are key takeaways. First is the iterative process. Test development follows 5 stages: conceptualization, construction, tryout, analysis. There are 2 approaches, the norm reference and the criterion referenced. And format matters, no, for selected response items and constructed response items. And we also have 4 key indices in terms of quantitative analysis. Sa item analysis, we have the item difficulty, item discrimination. And these 2 are usually used for achievement tests or school placement tests. We have reliability index and validity index in an item, which are usually commonly used for research. And all these four indices guide item selection and revision. And we have modern methods, the ICCs and the CA. Don't forget the word IRT, no? And then we have an analysis that's beyond the numbers, which is qualitative methods. Mga think aloud and sensitivity reviews in terms of the kanong wording sa test, no, to complement the quantitative methods. That's it. And our next topic will be overview and intelligence test scores. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for listening, and see you on the next video lecture.